This is the Creativity for Peace podcast number 4, entitled 1 through 6 of the Peace Monologues, airing July 21st, 2005, co-created, co-produced with Project Life Stories.
Hi, this is Rachel Kaufman, Director of Creativity for Peace, and I'd like to tell you about last summer. The girls worked with Project Life Stories. They created what we call their monologues. That's the story of their life, or a daily life living in conflict and violence, or their feelings about their homelands. And what you will see following is a sample of those monologues. Thank you very much. Make sure you visit creativityforpeace.com.
One day at midnight, I wake up because my mother shocked me. She told me, "Don't panic, but wake up and wear your clothes. We have to leave the home right now." Because the Israeli army came, and on a loudspeaker they said that we have to leave. They wanted to shake the house because they had a suspicion that we were hiding Palestinian soldiers and weapons in my home. I hurried up and put on my clothes. I still couldn't understand what was going on. And my mother started to collect everything we might need in case the Israeli army destroyed the home. The thing that I remember most is that I went to my bedroom and I took my cross because I felt that only God could protect me from the Israeli army. We went to my uncle's home, which is far from my house, without calling them. When we arrived at my uncle's home, they were sleeping, and they didn't know what had happened to us. We told them what happened, and they led us to their bedrooms. My cousin gave me one of her pajamas, but I couldn't sleep all the night. I was just thinking about what had happened to me, and I couldn't believe it. The next day, we came back to my home, and thank God they didn't destroy my home. They just checked it and destroyed a lot of things in my house. We were very careful in touching things because we were afraid they might have put a bomb in there. This day affected my whole life. I started to think more about the conflict and the occupation, which affects our life in different ways. After that day, everything I faced in my daily life was stuck in my head. I remember the day that the Israeli army came to my school, and one of the soldiers said in a loudspeaker that all the students and teachers had just 1 hour to be in their homes. After that, a curfew would start in the village, and they would kill anyone that they saw in the streets. I remember the panic of all the students. The girls start to cry. The boys start to run and try to find their sisters and brothers. I remember that I start to run without thinking. I just thought that I had to be in my home as fast as I could because I didn't want to be killed. After that, we had a curfew for 1 month. We couldn't go out. We didn't have food. We couldn't use the phone. And we had to stay together all the time. The Israeli jeeps were around my village all the time, day and night. We couldn't even look from the windows because the soldier killed people who looked at them from windows. Nowadays, I see the Palestinian people suffer a lot because of the checkpoints that the Israeli government built between Palestinian territories, between our cities, and even between our villages. The experience of a checkpoint that I most remember is the time that I went to Jerusalem to visit the most famous church there, called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. At the checkpoints, they stopped all the cars, and the Israeli army checked our cars all the way to Jerusalem. From my village to Jerusalem is about 2 hours, but with all the checkpoints, it took 6 hours to reach Jerusalem. I believe what makes our conflict worse is the wall, which the Israeli government started to build 2 years ago. It's around my city, and I feel the Israeli government treats my people like an animal. I feel like we are in a big prison with this wall. This is the kind of life that I live in, so I don't think that my life is a normal life at all. I wish I could have a normal life one day and have my security, freedom, country, and an army to protect me. I wish that my life could be with a meaning in the future, because right now, my life is without any meaning. But I will not give up hope to have peace in my life. Creativity for Peace Camp has taught me that we must forgive each other and forget our suffering that we have endured. I want to start a new page in life, and I don't believe Israeli people should be blamed for what their army does. Creativity for Peace has given me the chance to understand the other side, to be a good listener, and most importantly, the chance to meet Israeli girls that I don't have the chance to do in my country. I can't even realize or think about this day that I wake up and I will not have one of my parents beside me to support me. They are my hope. When I fall down, they pick me up. They share with me every moment of sadness and happiness. When I cry, they give me hope for the future. If I close my eyes now, I can see my parents in every successful part of my life. They supported me, so I have to be beside them now to support them when they need me. I still remember my father standing over there beside the telephone in my home in Al-Fahim with his sad eyes, which are full of tears. I never saw my father like this. He was shocked. Me too, but not for the same reason. I started to think, what exactly has happened? I didn't have an answer. So I walked a few steps until I reached my father, but I didn't have the courage to ask him what happened. I didn't expect my father to talk. Suddenly, he took his hands out of his pockets and spoke to me. I felt the pain from his voice. His best friend died in a suicide bombing in a restaurant in another town. His best friend was a Jew. It's really hard to live in war, and it's more complex when I see my people, the Palestinians, suffering and dying, and I can't help them. This situation affects my life a lot. It's not a normal life. My personality changed, my opinions and my dreams too. Many doors closed in my face. As a Palestinian who lives in Israel, I felt much discrimination in the jobs, the schools, and the living situations. Many roads I just can't see. I can't walk on them because I can't dream in free way. This is the country I live in, Israel. I see the limits everywhere. Sometimes I feel that I have to cry non-stop because I feel that my country is like a jail and my dreams are bigger than the limits. I have a strong voice. I want all the people to hear me. I can't be silent. I want to live like every human being. It's my right.
Hi, I'm Mai. I'm 16 years old, and in 2 or 3 years I'll be going to the army because in Israel we have to. I feel it's good to support my country. I don't feel the army is the best way to support my country, but this is what my country needs, so this is what I'll do. I don't believe in everything the army does, but I do think in order to change things, you have to be familiar with the reasons why things are being done the way that they are. I believe that it is necessary to be in the army to know these things. All of these ideas are very close to me because my older brother has been in the army for 2 years. For the last year, he has been a medic. He has been to Amala, in the Hermon mountain on the border with Syria, and now, because of the disengagement, he will probably go to Gaza. The fact that he has to go to all of these places causes sleepless nights with my mother and me. My mother is a single parent. My father passed away 5 years ago of a liver cancer. Ever since then, she has supported 3 children alone. We are afraid that something bad might happen to my brother. I came here to Creativity for Peace because I wish that 18-year-old children, boys and girls, won't have to go and fight against their brothers, the Arabs, and do things that human beings shouldn't have to do.
I feel that some people don't understand our occupation, and to some people it doesn't really matter because they don't live in the situation. But in my life, it has left marks that won't be erased. Now, nothing is like before the Intifada. I'm stuck in this prison so other people could feel safer. Before the Intifada, I felt imprisoned within myself, but now, seeing the wall built around me literally makes me feel I'm in a prison. It makes me angry and brings up horrible emotions. I feel like my Palestinian voice isn't heard in the world. Before the Intifada, my life was like any other child. I had no worries, just ordinary ones like being scared of the dark. I didn't know what other fears awaited me in the future. I wasn't living in war like my parents did before me. Transportation was easy, like going to the beach whenever I wanted and visiting Jerusalem. Now, I fear things I never thought I would. I never thought I would be afraid of weapons or being shot at. But look at my fears now. I've been chased by a tank and shot at. I never thought it would happen, not even in my wildest dreams. In 2002, there was a curfew in Ramallah, and I couldn't get out of my own house and didn't go to school for months. Now most of my life revolves around fear and politics. Before, I didn't even care about these issues. Hearing shooting and bombings in the night terrifies me. It happened 2 months every night in 2002. I couldn't sleep in my bed for weeks. I would carry my pillow and run to my brother's room. I just hate weapons in general. One of my biggest wishes and dreams is to have a free land of Palestine and for the Palestinian people, living with Muslims, Christians, and Jews. I want to be known in the world as a Palestinian girl. I want my country to help and to have a place in the world. Mostly, I wish for peace, no violence, no killing. I just want to have a normal teenage life like every teenager in the world without war. I want a real country.
I think it's hard to grow up hearing stories from a very close person about the life that he didn't have. I'm Aya and I'm Palestinian living in Israel, and I grew up hearing my grandfather's life story. I heard him telling how he was forced to leave his home, his village, and for a while his whole country. He lived in a village named Serene with his father. They were kicked out with all the people who lived in the village. Some of them left for other countries like Lebanon, Syria, or Jordan. My grandfather and my great-grandfather went to Jordan, but later came back to Palestine because they didn't want to leave their land. They couldn't return home because it was destroyed. The whole village was destroyed. So he went to Daburia, a village where its people stayed and didn't leave. He stayed there until this day. His father formed a family and he did the same. Knowing that my grandfather went through these strong and hard events makes me worry about my life, my home, and my family. I'm living in a fear that this might happen to me too, that I might be forced to leave my home, as my grandfather did. I love spending time with him on the weekends and hearing stories about that beautiful village and the well that they got water from. I think the hardest and wonderful day I ever had is that trip when we went to the place where the village was. We saw parts of the houses coming out of the ground, but not the houses themselves, because all the houses were destroyed. That day he showed us where his house was. We saw a pile of stones, but next to them there was a tree, a big one, and he stood there and looked at it. Then he said that this tree was small when he lived there, and now it was very big. He showed us where the streets were, and we stayed there for hours looking at the life that once was. I remember imagining the shape of the village and how it would look like. But destiny we can't change. Maybe this was meant to be so I would have the life I have now. Being a Palestinian who's living in Israel, or an Israeli Arab, or any other name that they call us, is very hard. Not knowing who or what you are is the most difficult thing. Living in a country without feeling that you belong is difficult too, and it brings a lot of anger. I'm angry because I don't have my own country that represents me, where I can feel comfortable and have a real life. My life is so complicated. I live in Israel, but I'm Palestinian in my heart. I'm treated differently in Israel because I'm a Muslim Arab girl. That's why I can't have an ordinary teenage life. I don't know what to think, and when I hear things, I don't know what is right and what is wrong. I can't know if the things I hear are true. I wish that people would pay attention to the Israeli Arab population, because I don't feel that people know a lot about us and our history.
Hi, my name is Truya. It's T-S-R-U-Y-A, if you were wondering. It's a very hard name for American people to say. It's a very hard name for Israeli people too. Anyway, my name is Truya, and I'm 14 years old. I live on a kibbutz. Yes, a real kibbutz. The thing I love the most about my kibbutz is our petting zoo. We have 1 female horse, 2 female donkeys, 4 female goats, and 4 males, and we milk them. The females, I mean. We have 4 sheep, 2 foxes, guinea pigs, 1 pig, Australian bird, lovebirds, cocktails, hamsters, bunnies, ducks, turkeys, chickens, mice, a turtle, 3 cats, 1 dog, and 6 kids, and 1 worker. You see, in 12th grade, my school flies to Poland to learn about the Holocaust. And my kibbutz is willing to pay for the trip and for a licensed driver if we work in a place in my kibbutz. So I work in my petting zoo. My favorite animal in my petting zoo is a goat with a bent head. His birth didn't go so well, so we took care of him for 6 months before we released him to the pen. His name is Pitzkiao. He thinks we are his family. He's weird and he's so cute. My parents have been divorced since I was 5.5 years old. I remember one time my mom was talking on the phone and she was sad and she was crying and she was angry. I wanted to comfort her and I couldn't because I was only 6 years old. But now I'm happier that they're divorced because they're happier, and I have 3 cute little brothers. I have now 5 brothers and 1 sister. One of my brothers learns in a school for Arabs and Jews. He learns to read, write, and talk in Hebrew and Arabic. I think peace begins with the right education from young age. I didn't finish it. I can finish if you want to. I believe that during life we become less and less human to protect ourselves from hurts. It doesn't have to be big hurts. It can also be simple ones, like a night butterfly that dies on the floor of your bedroom, or a stray cat meowing for food, or a little kid who can't find his mom and dad. Someone who curses you, or someone who doesn't return your love. I hate gossip. It is not fair and it's not justified. 10 years of my life I spent crying from gossip until I toughened up and closed down. I stopped listening and I became a cynic. My family doesn't justify everything the Israeli army does for defense. But I do agree with having the army because they saved my life. They are called the IDF, which means the Israeli Defense Forces, and they are called this for a reason. For example, one time, 40 years ago, on my kibbutz, which was not so far from the Lebanese border back then, 4 Lebanese men came to the place where we make honey. They killed 3 or 4 women. One was pregnant and one was only 16 years old. The story scared me very much when I was young because my grandmother said that she was supposed to work there that day. She had just replaced a friend of her who worked on the gate and who was sick. Her best friend died from the Lebanese men. She always puts flowers on their graves. I feel the army protects my life as an Israeli. Not all soldiers are fighters, and not all fighters humiliate others. I think peace is possible when both sides hear each other, when suicide bombers won't bomb themselves, and tanks stop killing innocent people, and when the wall will come down, just as Pink Floyd once said.
Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You may say I'm a dreamer, but you're not the only one. I hope someday you join us.